Hi friends, it's Sarah here from the Archer and Olive Ambassador team, and She Designs Casey over on Instagram. And today I am so excited to talk about one of my passions, which is lettering, and more specifically lettering with the Archer and Olive Acrylograph pens. I love these pens for lettering. They are pretty unique and can have the ability to give your lettering a real pop and a real special look. So we're going to go over some fun techniques that you can try out with your lettering. If you're not familiar with the Archer and Olive Acrylograph pens, they are an acrylic-based paint pen, and they do require a little bit of prep before you just go in with pen on paper. I'm not going to go over that today, but there are YouTube videos and blog posts on how to prep your pens. Just a little summary is you're going to shake them a little bit and depress the nib a few times until the ink starts to flow and you're good to go. Mine are already prepped, so I'm going to just go in with them as I'm lettering here in this video. I'm going to be using for my supplies today my acrylograph pens, a few different Archer and Olive notepads that I have. One of the great things about these pens is because they have that opacity, you can use them on a couple of different paper types, black paper, craft paper, colored paper, and they look great on all of them. I'm also going to use a gray calligraph pen to guide some of my lettering, pencil and eraser, and then I gave you a sneak peek there of some of the printables that I created for this theme, so be sure to check those out. So the first technique we're going to try out here is some faux calligraphy. Typically, faux calligraphy follows the rule of whenever you are making a downstroke, your stroke is going to be thicker. When you're creating an upstroke, it's going to be a thinner stroke. Since an acrylograph pen is a bullet tip, it's not going to give us that thick downstroke, light upstroke that you would get from a brush pen, but you can basically create that yourself by just doing two lines about equidistant apart for the downstroke and then one line for the upstroke, and then connect those lines and fill them in, which is what I did here. You will see I always keep a piece of scrap paper handy, just because if I ever start to lose some of the flow on my pen, if it's skipping a little bit, I will depress the nib a few times and make sure I've got that ink flow going good, and then go right back into my lettering. So that's a really fun look, and I'm happy with that lettering. But another technique that you can try out is to do a dot gradient, which is what I'm doing here. So basically you're just going to take a different color acrylograph and use it to put a whole bunch of tiny little dots. You want to concentrate them pretty heavily at whatever point you want to be darker, and then you start to space them out gradually so you create a gradient look in the end, and that is a really fun way to give a great pop to your lettering. So the next technique we're going to try out is blending two acrylographs together to create kind of an ombre effect with our lettering. So I'll start out with a light gray calligraph pen to put my lettering down on the paper, and this will be my guide. It will be covered up with the acrylographs, so won't be able to see that in the end since these are pretty opaque, as I mentioned before. For this look, I decided to do the lighter shade on the top of my lettering and have it blend into the darker shade. So I will apply my lighter shade of acrylograph first. Using pretty feathered strokes, I'm not going to make a straight across line where it's ending, but kind of feathery. And then going back in with my darker shade to do the bottom part of the letter. Then picking up my light shade of acrylograph again and dragging that lighter shade down into the darker and really creating that subtle blend which I think looks so great. So I've talked about a couple of times how opaque the Archer and Olive acrylographs are, and because of that feature, you can do a lot of fun things with them as far as adding embellishment to your lettering. So I'm just going to do a bunch of different ideas here. So that first one you saw, adding stripes to your lettering, really fun look. A center line through your lettering, as I did here on the Have Fun. This M, I'm going to do a lighter shade of acrylograph to fill in the whole letter, and then I'm just going to draw some fun flowers all over it, which is really cute and playful. So many possibilities of things you can do with these pens, which is one thing I really love about them. You just have to wait for them to dry before you go in over top of a layer you've already done, but on the bright side, they do dry really quickly, so there's not a lot of waiting for ink to dry, which is nice. My personal preference when I'm going to be layering any of my colors is to use my lighter shade for the base of the letters and then use my darker shade to add the embellishments. You can do the reverse, you can use a darker shade for the base, but if you're going over top with a lighter shade, you may have to do more than one coat, which is not a huge deal. I just prefer to do it the other way, so I only have to do it one time. Outlining is another cool thing that you can do with your acrylograph pens. You'll see me here using one of the free printables I created that has a couple of quotes that you can fill in however you choose. For this one, I'm practicing outlining, but you could do the stripes, you could do the polka dots, whatever technique you want to try out on these is all up to you, but I'm using a lighter shade of acrylograph to fill in the letters and then a darker one to do an outline on the letters, which looks really cool. And you'll see the finished product at the end, but that was too long for me to show the whole process of coloring that page. So the last technique I have to share with you is drop shadows. So drop shadows are a great way to add a little bit of dimension to your lettering. And the basic principle is you want to choose a side of your lettering where you imagine your light source coming from. As you can see here on this free printable that I created for y'all to use, I have a little sun shining up there, and that's showing me where the light is coming from. So on the opposite side of that, on all my letters, is where the shadow would fall. So you can see that shadow here. I've done all of these in a light opacity so you can trace over them with your acrylographs and get some practice with drop shadows. So they are such a fun look and really give a nice pop to lettering. Okay, so as promised, there is my completed practice worksheets printable that I filled out. So I probably am going to cut that out and just stick it somewhere in my journal. But anyway, I thank you so much for hanging out with me today and for chatting all things acrylographs and lettering. And I hope you're leaving with some excitement, some enthusiasm for using these great tools to amp up your lettering, your doodling, whatever it is you want to do with them. But I hope that you will subscribe here on the Archer and Olive YouTube channel for more fun and creative content, and I will talk to y'all soon.